maybe while we wait for the others to join, Geoffroy, Steve, Esra, Stein, can you maybe introduce yourself? Just what is the role is written, I see, but for which company, and what are you looking to get out of this webinar? What is your interest? Maybe Geoffroy first. Need to unmute if it's possible.
Can you hear me now or not?
Yes, we hear you, Alessandra.
Great. Hi, Cédric, finally. Sorry.
Yeah, and you seem to have recovered your voice. That's also good.
Yes, kinda.
Maybe Alfredo, if you want to start, yeah, just to introduce.
Introduce myself and
Yes.
what in touches, of course. So my name is Alfredo Prieto. I work for EPI, the European Payment Initiative, and by invoicing, I think is super important and critical for the commerce of today and tomorrow. So I want to particularly learn, especially I think you will talk a little bit about regulation as well, and what are best practices and what is market expecting on e-invoicing. So we can obviously help the market. No, that is at the end of the day what we would like to have as a mission.
And I think that there's a great place for EPI on this. We'll be discussing it indeed.
Awesome.
Next one, who wants to go?
Then Esra, Steve. You don't seem to be able to unmute yourself. I had to refresh and put these ones on. It wouldn't work for me neither, so.
They're refreshing.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, Steve seems not working now.
Okay, I was able to unmute. So I'm Steve Linden. I'm the CEO of Direct Invoice. It's an online invoicing application, and I just renamed it yesterday. So the new name is Facture.com. So it's an online invoicing application for freelancers, small business that I own for 10 years now. But it's not my main activity. I'm a software developer and I work for a big SaaS project in the music industry. And I'm doing Facture.com as a side project for now, but I will upgrade it in the future with a new person that will join me and do marketing stuff in the next month. But for now, it's still a side project for 10 years.
Yeah, okay. Glad to see you there. Stein, maybe? If you can unmute.
Yes. You hear me now? Perfect. I'm Stein. I work for POM as a business development manager. Everybody knows that POM stands for peace of mind. And the webinar pointed out because we all receive several messages about e-invoicing. And I was just interested in seeing how other guys look towards it. If it's the Peppol question, is this just another distribution channel? How will it change the way we work now, and in what kind of sectors will it be moving? So it's also interesting as a sender of documents that we are aware of what everybody does and where everybody needs to pay attention to.
Okay, very good. You'll see that indeed it's more than just a channel. It's the channel. So yes. Okay, good. Esra?
Hi, sorry, I had many issues with my microphone. So I am a lawyer working for Simon Brown, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what's the issues and how does the industry tackles the question of e-invoicing.
Okay, perfect. And Geoffroy, if you can unmute. And otherwise, I think we'll start. So thanks for everyone to be here. Geoffroy, if later you want to present yourself, don't hesitate. My name is Cédric Nève. I'm the CEO and founder of Digiteal. Digiteal is a fintech company, and we're organizing this webinar with the great help and support of Fintech Belgium, from which we're a very proud member. So thanks for this, Alessandra and the team. The subject of today indeed is e-invoicing. We will be talking about a few, well, I think all of the most relevant subjects linked to e-invoicing in Europe. We will start with an easy subject, with the invoicing flow. What does it mean? Who are the actors? What is Peppol? What is e-invoicing? What is going on with the regulation and what is hitting us, or what opportunities are there linked to regulation? There's not only regulation, there's also e-reporting that is popping up. Then we'll talk a bit about request to pay and the interconnection with request to pay and invoicing. Finally, we'll go on the power of the network and see how this can be help, and we'll conclude with the opportunities linked to what we will have presented today. During this presentation, there will be a few polls, so stay sharp. And don't hesitate if you have a question to interrupt. I'll be glad to take the questions directly. So if something is unclear or you are missing something, just bring it up directly. We will do the presentation, and after we will have some time. I think it will last for an hour 15, and at the end we will have time for questions and answer, more like off-topic or more broader questions that we can address at the end. So if everyone is ready, let's go. Why am I here? What are my credentials? Well, Digiteal won the e-Invoicing Award 2023 from Boza, Goria. That was 2023. We're also part of the Osservatori Digiteal Invoicing from the University of Milano. That is being I think we have, yeah, Geoffroy, now we hear you, but now there's noise from behind. Sorry, but if you want to present yourself, no, it will be for later.
I will let you go.
Okay, so we're part of this Osservatori because they are the body that is being heavily used by the European Commission as experts on e-invoicing for Europe. And it's also a way to get into lobbying for the European Commission. Digiteal is also a certified Peppol access point. We'll explain more about what this means. And finally, I'm part since maybe 5 or 6 years of the e-invoicing expert group that is being organized by VBO in Belgium. So that's why I am talking to you about e-invoicing today. So we'll start with the flow. And I think that everyone has a pretty good understanding of what is the basic flow of invoicing. You have a contract typically between a buyer and a seller. Because there's a contract at some point, there's a service or goods being exchanged, leading to an invoice between the seller and the buyer. The buyer can accept the invoice, pay the invoice, but he can also reject the invoice, and sometimes this rejection will lead to a credit note. All of those documents, the invoice, the credit notes, need to be transferred by the buyers and the sellers to their accountants, and the accountants will at some point make a declaration for all of this as a global declaration to the tax authorities on each side. If you're not using any tool, well, then all of this is manual. You're preparing an invoice, you're sending it, yeah, all manual. Of course, that's not what is recommended. What we and everyone recommends is to use tools to help this, so that the seller now is using an invoicing solution provider, a software that enables him to create his invoices and his credit notes. Those are then sent by those software, received by the buyer, that can still manually reject this invoice. The buyer can also be equipped with an invoice receivable solution provider. And with this, well, he will be able to manage all the incoming invoices and act on them. Those tools, both on the buyer and the seller side, can communicate automatically to the accountant to transfer those documents. And the accountant, with his own tools, will enable then, again, the global declaration to the tax authority. This is partial automation. It's better, much better, but it's still not full automation. And here we're still not talking about e-invoicing. With e-invoicing and e-reporting, what is changing is that still the seller and the buyer have a software, okay? But the software is now enabled to do more and is directly connected to e-invoicing and e-reporting networks. This means that when the invoice is sent, it's not sent from one tool to the other using email or something like that. No, it's using the network to transfer all of those documents. And those documents include the rejection of the invoice, and so updates on status and things like those. All the information about the processing of those invoices is also part of what can be transferred through the network. And the points of the network here are called access points that will later also do reporting to the tax authorities, and this time not as a global declaration, but in real time. So if you want to hide something from the FOTFIN, well, it will become more and more complicated because they will know exactly what is going on, which invoices are being sent, received, paid, all of that. This is not for today, but this is what is being prepared. And this then it means that, well, it's fully automatic. There is nothing more that needs to go through alternative channels. So that's the general flow. We have a first poll now to evaluate, how you would best describe your status on e-invoicing automation, just to have an idea of where you stand. I'll give you 10 seconds, and then we'll be able to see the results. Okay, let's see. Iona, if we have the results. Yes, thank you. So, not surprising, most of us are using partial automation. Full automation from e-invoicing is still very rare at the moment. So yeah, not really surprised. So that's good. Now we'll see what really is behind this full automation and what e-invoicing can lead to. Can now remove the results. Thank you, Yana. So what is behind e-invoicing? So as we said, there's a sender, there's a receiver. With e-invoicing, we're transferring documents, and those documents are produced by, here for the sender, a billing solution provider. You can think of many, and those documents are then sent to an access point. The sender access point sends it to the receiver access point. The receiver access point forwards this to the invoice receivable solution provider, which is used by the receiver. Well, that's very simple. With Peppol, as an example of a network for e-invoicing, but as we'll see, it's the main network leading to interoperability. So what is added is a directory. And this directory is super important because if you think of, for example, how the phone works today, you have somehow also a directory where you will know all the phone numbers of everyone, and you'll be able to route the phone calls to the correct receiver. So this directory is the same here. You have VAT numbers, company registration numbers, and all of those link to a specific receiver access point and are also associated with capabilities that explain, okay, me as a receiver A, I'm able to receive invoices, credit notes, maybe other types of documents, and this is all written in the directory. So that when, as a sender, I want to send a document to this recipient, he knows exactly what type of documents can be understood and processed by the recipient directly or through usually a solution provider. So this directory is very important, and as we'll see, enables also self-discovery of the participants. So that's for what Peppol is adding. We talked about invoice and credit notes, but as you can see, and this is only a very small selection, there are a number of documents that can be exchanged over the Peppol network. The first one is a technical document that describes the processing of a document by the recipient access point. So when you're sending a document, what you're sure to always have is a confirmation of receipt, which is already much better than what you would get through an email. You know that the access point of the receiver has received the document. But it's not because he has received it that he has accepted it. He might reject this document. So the accepting or rejecting the document is this message level response. It's still a technical message provided by the access point. When you're entering a relationship with a supplier, what can be very interesting is to have the catalog of all the services or goods that the supplier is providing. This is another type of message, the catalog. If you have the catalog, you can place an order. So that's second here message, order. So you explain that you want to order that many pieces of this item that is described in the catalog. In the catalog, you have the price, the description of those items, so you can place this order. When the order is placed, well, the seller will respond to that and accept the order, reject it. So this is the order response. And once the order has been accepted, it will be shipped, and the shipping is informed through the dispatch advice document type. Great, document, well, the goods have been shipped. Now it's time to invoice. That's the next document here. You're sending an invoice. There are updates on the status of the processing of the invoice. Invoice received, in progress, partially accepted, rejected, completely accepted, paid. So all of those status updates are sent through invoice response messages. And you can also, of course, send credit notes. What is being regulated and part of the invoicing part is this. So the invoice sending and receiving, that's the regulation that we have in Belgium. We'll talk about it a bit after. But you see a lot of document types that can be exchanged through the network. As I already said, so the message level response can have three types. The fact that it has been acknowledged. So you know that it's received, but you already knew it, that this is a signed response saying it's received. But more interesting, you know if it's been accepted, and even more interesting that it's been rejected. And when it's rejected, you have the reason of the rejection. This happens at the access point level, meaning that it's still somehow a technical process that rejected the message. So what examples can we have there? There's a mandatory field that this recipient is expecting and has configured in his access point. For example, the order number. And if the order number is not there, well, it will be technically rejected. The buyer of the service, recipient of the document, will not even see this document. It will be automatically rejected then by the access point. And it's important that this type of message is processed on the other side so that you know that you have a technical failure to send out this document to your customer. That's the first type. The second type, also talked about it here, the invoice response. So this is from the business, from the buyer. Acknowledged, accepted, rejected, in process, under query, conditionally accepted, paid. So all of those are status updates that today you don't really get. When you're sending an email, well, you're just praying after that it will it will lead to a payment. Of course, you might have solutions that do reminders and all of that, but those are not really part of the usual invoicing process. It's accounts receivable. It's how to manage the collection of the invoice. But in terms of messaging, you don't really know what's going on afterwards. With Peppol and these invoice responses, you can receive the updates on the processing of the document that you sent, which is very valuable and can greatly enhance the visibility of this processing to the seller that can now see, okay, I sent the document. I know that it has been received. I know that it is being processed. I know it's been accepted. I know it's been paid. So these are all new things that usually what you are seeing is you don't have news, and then at some point you get paid. Here you will have a more detailed breakdown of what went on at the buyer side. All clear for now? Okay. So time for the second poll then. Jona, if you don't mind. Yep. So now that we explained a bit what is Peppol, let's see what you're already doing with Peppol today. So do you support Peppol? And if yes, for sending, for receiving, and maybe are you already using those invoice responses? Just let's see. Five seconds. Yeah, well, a lot of progress to be made then. and we'll see that this progress will need to happen fast because of the regulation. So we'll see that. And so some are both sending and receiving, and I put the last one. We're doing everything already on Peppol, but that's no surprise. Okay, thanks. So now let's go to the regulation. There's been a lot of noise about Peppol because of the regulation in Belgium. You will see that it's not just happening in Belgium, but this has made, of course, for us in Belgium a lot of noise. What is present today in the regulation is that in the tenders sent by public authorities, they must contain. You see down, depending on the expected cost of those tenders, they must contain the reference that the invoices that will be sent by the companies responding to those tenders must be sent through Peppol. So it's a must, and you see that since March of this year, it concerns all the tenders above 3,000 euros, which, well, frankly, means everything, because under 3,000 euros, I don't think that there's a lot of tenders in that category. So this means that for all B2G, you must send it through Peppol in Belgium. They announced, and it was voted in the beginning of February, that for the 1st of January 2026, this obligation will also be extended for B2B invoicing, meaning that we will see that it will mean, but it's sending and receiving for B2B, but also for G2B, so for public authorities sending invoices to companies. We'll talk about C2C later, but this is also part of the expected agenda for the Belgian regulation. So C2C is this continuous tax control, but we'll talk about it after. And then there's VIDA, so VAT in the digital age. A lot of money is lost by the state. That's one way to see it, because of VAT fraud, VAT carousel, all of that. When there is a VAT carousel, it usually involves cross-border invoicing. And regulation inside Belgium is not going to solve this because, well, it's Belgium to Belgium that this legislation is interesting for. So in order to tackle this, we need something more at the European level, and that is VIDA. And we'll explain more what's inside this. So that's an overview of the Belgian regulation. As I said, 1st of February, approved by the House of Representatives, this law for the B2B obligation, quite a game changer. And what is great for Belgium is that we're front runners in this category. We're the first country, I believe, to impose this for B2B. So we'll have a lot of learnings from this new regulation. In practice, what is inside the regulation for B2B? So it introduces generalized obligations to issue structured electronic invoices between taxpayers. So for all taxpayers, all B2B companies, the structured invoicing means using the Peppol network and the UBL standard. We'll see that there is one option to use something else if both parties agree and it's still structured. So this is possible. So EDI remains an option between parties that have set this up already. We don't advise it because it requires a point-to-point connectivity, but still it's an option enabled by the law. And it means sending and receiving. So it's not only having a solution for you as a seller to send your invoice, you must also be able to receive invoices from any other company through the Peppol network. And those invoices must be structured, so UBL, and of course, no PDF anymore. So a lot of changes that are expected for after this law. And all of this needs to happen before the 1st of January 2026, knowing that at this moment, 5% of the companies in Belgium are registered to receive such documents through Peppol. So we need to go from 5% to 100% in a bit more than a year and a half. So that's challenging. Who are the actors in Belgium about e-invoicing? Well, the government has a platform called Mercurius that is their access point. It's available for all the public authorities. It's a solution that is free for them. It enables them to do something that is completely strange in the e-invoicing world, but is receiving through Peppol and then sending an email. So not really the right way to use it, but still it enables a transition for the public authorities that are then present on the network and can receive those in a structured way and be ready to build the technical solutions to also process them in this structured way. The Peppol Authority of Belgium is BOSA. So they are the ones that are granting the certification through the access points in Belgium. The tax authority you all know is FOTFIN. There are a lot, and by a lot I mean hundreds of solutions for accounts receivable. So CRMs, invoicing software. Some of them you might know, and I'm sure that there's hundreds, so I didn't put a lot of logos over there. On the other side, you have accounts payable software, so ERPs, accounting solutions. Again, maybe not hundreds there, but certainly tens of solutions are available. And in the middle, to enable the connectivity between the two, there are access points. Here are some of the access points. There are 40 that are certified by BOSA as Peppol Authority in Belgium, but you can use any access point you want in the world, and there are more than 300 in the world. So a lot of ways to connect, which means that this is a very competitive market with prices that will certainly go down a lot as the volumes increase. So that's the connectivity. Then there are some document service providers, put the name of a few here, that are providing solutions that are connected to the access points and that enable multi-channel. That was one of the questions that Stein was asking about the channels. So these are enabling multi-channel sending. One of those channels is Peppol. And for B2B, it will become the one channel in the future. But those are sending for third parties, so they have also a role to play. And then there are the accountants. As we said, all of those documents need to arrive at the accountants in the end. Usually the sending to the accountants is done by the two softwares that you see above. There are more than 13,000 accountants, and of course, they're part of this invoice exchange landscape. Okay. Time for the third poll then. Yona, thank you. So what do you think in Belgium is the most used software to prepare invoices? So what do you think? So a software that is used by the companies to send out their invoice or to prepare their invoice ready to be sent out. Let you think a bit. In volume of companies using that software. Maybe interesting to see the results. Fiona, maybe if it's I don't know if we will see them because this was an open question, but we'll see how it displays. I see that Ralph sent a question, but I didn't read it before. When you send a payment request via a payment wallet, an invoice number, or the remittance information, is this considered an e-invoice? No, not at all. So an invoice, as we said, is a UBL document sent through the Peppol network. So a request to pay is not an e-invoice. Iona, how does it look like for the results?
I have a bit of issues. I'm trying now because it's a bit of different things I'm trying.
Yeah. We didn't try to, okay, when it's an open question, how does it look like?
Yes, exactly. We tried everything except this one when we did the test, so I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you know what is your answer, and we're going to see if your answer is right in the next slides. It's okay, you know, we'll do it this way, don't worry.
Okay, sorry.
So, ASA, in French, Agence pour la Simplification Administrative, is conducting every year with, I think, the University of Hasselt, an inquiry on what is the software, the habits of linked to invoicing, both sending, receiving, B2B and B2C. You'll see a few slides that contain the data that is collected through this report that we can send you afterwards if you want. The report is in French and in Dutch, so that's why the slides here are in French. For the sending of invoices, you can see that there's a very big difference between the size of companies in the way that they manage the sending of the invoices. The bigger the company, the more automatic it gets. And for the very small companies, we have a completely reverse pattern where most of the invoices are prepared manually. And because we have a lot of those small companies, well, it means that a lot of them are then sending those invoices manually, but also preparing them manually. So the answer to the question, what is the most used software, is Word and Excel.
I have also the results, so if you want, I can show them now.
Yes, please.
I will share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see. Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, sorry. Entire screen share. Allow.
Yeah. Excel, Word. Very good. Word, also right. Mercurius, no. Would be interesting, but no. So yes, a lot of you were right in the Excel, Word, Microsoft. So all of this And yes, I hope it's not Excel. Well, sorry to disappoint you, but yes, we're still a lot using Excel for this. Okay, thank you, Yana. So, yes, of course, there are others, a lot of others, as I was saying, hundreds of other software that can be used to prepare those invoices. But so this is what you can see here. And then even more astonishing is the 38% in none. So just don't know, maybe a pencil and a paper. I don't know how they're doing, but I suppose by none they mean also Word and Excel. So this really means that this category is very high.
Maybe
And
tickets as well.
maybe what?
Tickets, like
Tickets?
yeah.
Yeah, maybe, but if it's a ticket, it's not an invoice. So I
No, but
don't.
maybe some just don't do invoices and they do, yeah, they use tickets instead.
Yeah, it's possible. But again, if an invoice is required, it will need to be sent electronically. It will need to be structured. So using Word and Excel as a way to prepare those invoices will need to disappear somehow. There might be some solutions that will use the output of Word and Excel and a PDF to generate this structured format. We know that some providers are looking into this, but it's really not the best way forward. The best way will be to use a software that properly creates the structured data for the invoice. So that's how it's being prepared today in Belgium. And when we look at the channels that are used to send out those invoices, you can see here what is reported as the sending channel by the sender and facture électronique envoyée par email. So they say so email invoicing 71%. This was in 2022. We don't have the numbers for 2023. Those will be collected this year. So 71%, this is really high, and this will need to go to zero in the future. So this will also be a big change in the coming years. 14% paper, declining very much, and only 15% structured, which is the regulation, what the regulation requires. So this 15% will need to go to 100%. The 71 and the 14 will need to disappear. So a huge change for the sending habits of everyone. And on the receiving side, it's the same thing. It's a bit surprising that we don't have the same numbers. So somehow they're sending with some channel and sometimes not receiving it. It shows that email sending is not the best choice because it's reported as being less received. But again, this will need to change. And only this 16% of structured format will prevail to become 100%. So huge changes ahead. That's for Belgium. And as we said just before, in Europe, VIDA is the moving force. So there's, for the moment, intense lobbying by the member states and the organizations representing large integrators to continue to shape VIDA. There's a bit of a power struggle for this. Spain, France, Germany, Romania, and Poland have a national system set up for e-invoicing that is sometimes interoperable with Peppol, often not. Then many of the smaller states in Europe are using Peppol. We'll see that after. We believe that none of the big states will accept to use a national solution provided by another big state in Europe. We each have our pride, so that will be complicated to achieve. So that's why we believe that in the coming years, with VIDA, we will be having interoperability provided through the Peppol network. So that is the one that will prevail once all the national solutions will become interoperable. that's for that one part. And the other part is, well, of course, everyone providing a technical solution is trying to have that technical solution adopted by the biggest market possible. So that's why this lobbying is taking place. With Belgium's presidency of the European Union in the first half of this year, we have the occasion to push on the standard-based approach and to avoid all of these national solutions that will make it very complicated to send cross-border invoices around Europe. So that's what's coming up for VIDA. If we look at the Peppol network itself, you see that there are a bit more than 1 million receivers on the Peppol network. Just as a reminder, there are 1,000,002 companies in Belgium, so this wouldn't represent even all the companies in Belgium, and this is the numbers worldwide. So we're far from total adoption. There are 20 countries that have Peppol authority, 45 countries in which there are Peppol members, and there are a total of 596 open Peppol members, which are mostly solution providers, among which are the more than 300 access points that we mentioned before. So that's the key figures for the Peppol network. The countries are quite interesting because Northern America is part of it. Almost all European countries are part of it. And it goes even to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, India. So really, it's growing, and the most important countries that are doing trade and trying to exchange those invoices are part already of the Peppol network. So that's to show the footprint. When we're talking about sending electronic invoices, there are different layers that need to be put in place in order to get efficiency gains from the interoperability and the sending and receiving of those documents. The first layer is the regulation. So what are the directives? What are the regulation? The second one is the data, the standards about the document that will need to be exchanged. So that's UBL. And the directives, you can think about VIDA and the Belgian regulations imposing this to everyone. The third part is linked to the discovery. That's the registry part, directory part. So being able to find out what are the capabilities of everyone to be able to send them the documents. Then when we can discover, we can start delivering. And so this is the protocol to deliver. With Peppol, it's AS4 as a protocol for deliverability. And once you have all of that, mandatory, we know the format, UBL, we have the directory, we can exchange the documents, then we can start having value-added services. So we are in this, at this moment, the rest is being built at the same time, but is largely already present, so we can start unlocking the value-added service. And that's why we're doing this webinar. It's for you to understand what extra services you will be able to build, knowing what we're explaining here. Not everything is UBL in this world, so there are other standards. EN 16931 is another one. In France, they call it Facturix. In Germany, it's called Xrechnung, but it's the same thing. It's a PDF that includes a structured element. So it looks like a PDF, but if you look inside, you'll find the structured data. While a UBL is just the opposite. It's an XML that may contain attachments that are PDFs, or that can be something else. The UBL standard with Peppol, called BIS2, contains hundreds of rules for the validation of those electronic invoices. All of those rules may not apply everywhere in the world. That is why they created an extension of this standard that is called PINT for Peppol International, that is used mostly outside of Europe, where you have some of those rules that have been removed to enable this to work in those other countries. So that's the data layer to be used. And that leads us to our fourth poll. Jana. So this is to know where you are active, because depending on where you're active, a different regulation applies and different standards are used in the different countries. So let's see, maybe 5 seconds more. This should be an easy question for everyone. So Jana, she can display the results. And Ralph had a follow-up question while we're at it. So is every professional having a VAT number obliged to send an invoice for their product service delivered? In a B2B context, certainly. In a B2C context, you must be able to produce an invoice upon request of the customer. That's what I believe. Would be happy to hear what Simon Brown has to say about this, because I'm not the legal expert, but that's what I believe. So you, in the end, this can also be related to the B2C part of invoicing. That can be also very interesting for Stijn. There is no obligation for the moment to have the B2C invoices sent through Peppol in a structured way. However, the VAT obligations of the companies are derived from the invoices that they have produced. And if the FOTFIN wants to prepare and have a complete view on all the VAT obligations of a company, they not only need the B2B and B2G invoices, they also need the B2C invoices. So you can be sure that B2C will be part of the upcoming regulation. Let's first absorb the B2B part, and then they will come to B2C. But this will come. And most of the participants are active in Europe and not just Belgium, and some are even active in the world. Well, good for you. For the world, it's going to be more complicated, but we can hope that there will be also harmonization there. There are a lot of talks at the global level too, to have an interoperable solution. Achieving this at the European level will already be a big step forward. And once it's done there, we can try to export this throughout the world. So this leads us to e-reporting. So e-reporting is the declaration of the VAT obligations to the state, and continuous tax control is doing this in real time, so that the tax authorities can monitor the transactions in real time submission of the invoices, real-time surveillance. It's like 1984, and CTC separated into different types. We'll talk about those types, so clearance, real-time reporting, and reporting. So let's see those types. I don't know if we have architects in the room, but you'll recognize maybe what this is all about. So the real-time invoice reporting means that the supplier, when he's preparing an invoice, of course he wants to send the invoice to the buyer. That's clear. But the extra layer here is that his software solution must also report this invoice to the tax authorities. That's real-time reporting. So he creates the invoice, the tax authority knows about it. The clearing system starts the same way. The supplier wants to send an invoice, but before he can send the invoice, he must clear it through the tax agency. So he must send it there, have it confirmed, validated by the tax agency, and then only can he send it on the other side. And once it has been sent, this same invoice needs to be reported by the buyer to his own tax agency for also reporting and clearing. So it's done by both sides and it's done before sending it across. The centralized exchange is the French solution, where the supplier and the buyer are not communicating anymore directly. In order to send an invoice, you need to go through the tax authority that will transfer this invoice to the buyer. France is a very centralized state, so they are trying to make this work. It's very complicated to achieve, and the jury is still out on will they manage to pull it off. So we'll see. But that's the model adopted in France. Then there is the decentralized CTC, which is the model adopted with Peppol that we're going to see here. So it's the same. A buyer has an invoice a seller who has an invoice that he wants to send. He sends it to his access point. This access point communicates with the access point of the recipient, and from there it's transferred to the buyer. It's using the registry to find out what are the capabilities, and each access point is reporting to the tax authorities with the tax data portion of the invoice. So they're not sending all the invoice because they don't need to have all the invoice. They don't need all the details, but they want to know everything about the tax of this linked to this invoice. And this is reported to the tax authority by each of the Peppol access points. If this is in two different countries, well, two different countries will receive this data. Okay. And this is also what we and a lot of others are pushing for VIDA and the cross-border invoicing. So it's still not approved yet, but we're hope that it will go in this direction. Clear for everyone for what e-reporting means? The advantage for companies, expected advantage, is that they will not need to provide VAT monthly or quarterly VAT declarations because the state already knows exactly how much they owe for the VAT, and they will know it in real time. So that's one advantage, so less paperwork, but of course it relies on a system that needs to be set up and properly managed so that everyone provides all the necessary data for this final declaration. Okay. So also a lot of things ahead. This is not part of the obligation for 2026. This is just what is expected to come after as a consequence of going through the access points. And it comes as a strategy from the Belgian state saying that it's going to be very difficult to impose that every buyer and sellers reports in real time all this tax data by himself. It would be also difficult to impose this on all the softwares that those buyers and sellers are using. So let's first get them all to send structured data over one system. And once it's sent over one system, it will be much easier to impose on the few actors enabling this system, the access points here, to send out the tax data. Okay, so that's their phased approach to finally get our tax data. Okay. We are not alone in Belgium trying to get this, and some countries have been enabled with continuous tax control since, as you see, as early as 2008. So Portugal got this in 2008, then Luxembourg, Poland, Norway, Hungary, Romania. France is expected to have this in 2026, at least that's what there is in their timeline. And in Belgium, it hasn't been announced yet. So we don't know, but we're expecting this to be 2028. Most of the earlier ways to report this was with an auditing standard called SAFT. So it's another way to send this than Peppol, but it's the same principle of a structured document for tax purposes. Okay. We talked about e-invoicing. We talked about e-reporting. Well, there is another standard that is used now by the banks, which is called RTP for real request to pay. I think I blew it. Sorry, Jonna. Yeah, let's go for poll 5, but I'm sorry, I said it already. So I won't. Poll 5 was about, do you know what RTP stands for? And I was too eager to say, so I won't go for poll 5. It is request to pay. And so, what does request to pay mean? For the moment, when you are sending, and that's a bit linked to what Ralph was asking as a question, when you're sending an invoice, in fact, what you're expecting is the buyer to receive this document and to pay. Well, sending the invoice is one way to do that, but there is also a messaging protocol that is now enabled by the banks, at least some banks, where the payer, the supplier, can interact with the buyer through his bank to request a payment. It means that you can see it here. So how does it work? The payer retrieves information about the payee, so the buyer, mostly his IBAN. Based on this, the payee will interact to request a payment. This will go to his provider, a provider which here is usually a bank. And when it arrives here, the payer, so the buyer, receives a message on his phone from his bank saying, oh, your provider, Proximus, is asking you to pay this much. They see this in their bank interface, and from there they can proceed to payment. And the result of this payment is another message that goes the other way from the payer back to the payee to say, okay, it has been paid. This is not e-invoicing. This is just linked to the payment. Okay, but it's still often linked to an invoice. So the key features are here. So compared to a normal payment that would be requested, here you can accept it, but you can request an execution date in the future. So for that, you can provide some information about the invoice, a URL, or a document. It can be used to pay with different payment methods, just not just a SEPA credit transfer. You can define also payment conditions, have the status, and so yeah, see you, Ralph. And so receive a payment on behalf of someone, and this is of course fully digital. So that's request to pay, and of course you can imagine that this solution could be used in e-invoicing as an add-on. So RTP enables the sending of the invoice with the URL and optionally a file, but the support of this file is optional in the bank, making it annoying. You have an acknowledgement of receipt, so that's good. You know that it has been presented to the customer. And you have for the payment, it's messaging, so to initiate the payment and to receive the feedback. So great, it's a useful tool. It has, however, been not adopted by a lot of banks. It's based on an EPC standard, so there's a scheme behind all of this, and in the end, it means that it's a payment through messaging initiated by the payee. If we look at then how it could be used in coordination with Peppol, well, the Peppol part manages the invoicing process, not just the payment. So with Peppol, you can send the invoice through the Peppol network, usually maximum 25 megabytes, but it's much more than what the bank will usually accept. You can have an acknowledgement of receipt, also available here, but it's there. And you can also have updates on the processing. We talked about that with the MLRs and the invoice responses. And for the payment, what is part of the UBL is only describing where you're expecting the payment and the payment terms, but you don't have anything about the actual payment that has taken place. So that part could be done through RTP. So you see that there's a synergy between RTP and Peppol that could be used to have the full experience of not just sending the invoice, which is the kind of documentation flow, and receiving the payment, which could be done here through RTP. So that's the interplay between the two. Clear for RTP and the connection with Peppol?
So is it correct that a payment request via RTP is processed as a bank transfer then, as you give the authorization via the bank of the payer?
Yes, correct. It is a bank transfer. So looking at POM, this is a threat for the business model, because here the provider can directly interact with the bank of the buyer without any third party. Well, the third parties are the RTP service providers. And based on this, it can initiate a payment, and you can be notified that the payment has been done through, again, the messaging of the RTP provider. So you can see it as a threat to the existing business model, but you can also see it as an opportunity because, well, yeah, that's another channel to deliver those documents and to get paid. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what is great with e-invoicing is that it's a completely open network. As we said, there are more than 300 access points. And behind each of those access points are hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies that are accessible through those access points. And all of them are talking together on the same network without requiring contracts between each other. So no contracting required, and all talking the same language because in the network, we have all agreed to use UBL and Peppol BIS2 as the common denominator for the exchanges. It means that when you're registering in the network, you can say that you support very exotic document types, but you must support at least UBL 2.0, BIS2 documents, so the invoices and the credit notes, so that everyone can talk the same language on the network. And if they want to upgrade this to specialized document, they can, but the base is mandatory. So when a sender here is using like a software, we took as an example Atfinity. Atfinity has as access point Digiteal. Digiteal is connected to all the other access points. Here, XORDocs receive the document. That is a document intended for Securex, and Securex receives the document. There is absolutely no contract between Atfinity, Securex, Atfinity, XORDocs, Digiteal, XORDocs. So we're just part of the same network and able to communicate. What is also important here is that there is no fee for the sending here between access points. So XORDocs cannot impose a fee on any other access point to receive the document and must receive all of the documents for free. Who is paying XORDocs? It's Securex. Who is paying Digiteal? It's Atfinity. So the contracts are in the columns, but not between the columns. Okay? So that's very important to understand. No retribution between access points. Okay? If you think of it today, what's happening in Belgium? Well, if you want to send something on Dockel, if you want to send it on Bancontact Payconic, there's a fee to do that. And the fee is borne by the sender. In this case, the sender doesn't pay any fee to send it to the other side. It's sent in the column only. Okay, so that's also very much a big change in the way the business is conducted. There is a lot. Well, there will be a lot more receiving capabilities. Bancontact with PUM is one of the ones here, but the banks will step up on this to also be able to receive the structured documents. There's a discussion also to receive this in the e-books. So this means that those will be able to, or at least a discussion to enable receiving those structured documents. And everyone has a bank account. A lot of people have access to their e-books. So these could be in the future big channels to increase the receiving capabilities of everyone in Belgium, whether it's a small company or a consumer in the future. Okay, so this is coming, or at least we're expecting it to come, and there are discussions with those parties to make it happen. So that's for the increased capabilities to receive. Now, another point about the self-discovery. If you, as the receiver of the invoice, you don't agree on the content of the invoice, you would like to inform your supplier about this. And if you're using a software, you would like to just in the software say, this is an invoice, I see that I received it, I click on a button and I say I reject it, I explain why I reject it, and I would like this to be done. What happens is the software that I'm using here can go to the Peppol directory to see, Peppol technical registry to see, is my supplier able to receive my invoice response? And if the answer is no, he doesn't support this, well, I'm stuck and I need to do something else, send him an email, a phone call, whatever, to be able for him to know that I have rejected his invoice. If I don't do that, well, the invoice is like pending. He thinks he's going to get paid because he doesn't know better. And me as a buyer are just not going to move on it. I didn't accept it. So this broken channel here is annoying. And today it's the cause of a lot of invoices not being paid. In fact, just because the buyer refuses the invoice. With self-discovery, if now the supplier is able to receive this invoice response, then it will be delivered electronically to his platform, and he will know that the invoice has been rejected. And he'll be able to act on it, to do a credit note, to explain something to the buyer, to finally get paid. So this is a great improvement with self-discovery over the network. When you can send it automatically, it greatly improves the fluidity of the communication and well, removes unpaid invoices. Now to conclude, what are the opportunities linked to all that we discussed today? The first is that we are all sending invoices. We're also receiving some. We need to automate in order to be ready by 2026. Most of this readiness will come from the software that we're using to send and receive invoices. So those are the ones that need to do the work in order to be ready. Looking at Steve here, so need to be ready. And this is something that you need to do to be ready so that your customers can be compliant with the regulation in 2026. So that's the first thing. And if you're using a software that doesn't yet support Peppol, well, discuss with them so that you're sure that by 2026 it will be supported. We also believe that this obligation to do B2B invoicing is a pretext from the state to go to continuous tax control, but is also something that we shouldn't just take as an obligation, but as an opportunity to improve our processing and to be more effective in the way we exchange invoices. So try to reduce your cost, the manual processing list of those invoices so that you get in a better shape. As we explained, there are only 5% of the companies registered in Belgium to receive documents. We need to be at 100%. This means that a lot more companies will be able to receive electronic documents in the future, that a lot more documents will be exchanged, and that there will be a lot more senders that will be sending those documents and sending those documents to you. So this is all part of building up of the network and the traffic on the network. And because we have this B2B obligation, Belgium is a front runner, which is useful for us because it means we will have a head start from other countries that have not adopted this at such a big stage, will not have such a big deployment. As a conclusion, so the main point, Peppol is a powerful enabler for ordering and e-invoicing. So we saw it, I hope that you understood why. That the regulation is progressing on all fronts, both in Belgium and at the European level. That in Belgium, we need to get ready. And we need to do this now because, well, 26 is just around the corner. And a lot of those solutions do not happen overnight. So the software providers need to get this together and implement the connectivity with Peppol, the production of those structured documents, the exchange, the processing of the incoming documents. All of this needs to be ready so that the companies, their customers, can be compliant. And the advantages of using the standard are increasing as the network grows. If today you would imagine that you're the only one in Belgium having a cellular phone or a mobile phone, this wouldn't be very helpful. If everyone has a mobile phone, this becomes very important. So it's the same for e-invoicing. The power of the network is there. And by embracing it, we multiply the benefits for all the customers. And I hope that by learning this today, we have enabled you to be a bit more informed and that you'll be able to become the Peppol champions of tomorrow. That's it. But I suppose that you have some questions. Yeah. So who wants to shoot first?
Yes, I wrote a question in the chat about the formats. Because you said France was already highlighted in the Peppol network, but they use their own format Factor X. So,
yes.
And you said before that to be in the Peppol network, the UBL is the base and everyone needs to understand the UBL. So if I understand correctly, that means the France impose to their business to support both UBL at least and Factor X?
It's even worse than that because in France, there are 3 that need to be mandatory supported. So there's SendBII, FactureX, and UBL 2.0 with Peppol BIS. So 3 formats that need to be supported by every company in France. So it's very complicated over there. That doesn't mean that normally this job of supporting the format is done by the solution providers. And there are multiple layers in France of solution providers. There are what they call ODs, which are opérateurs de dématérialisation. It's a French word, meaning that they provide technical connectivity to the centralized platform. And then they have another layer that is called the PDP, for partenaire, plateforme de dématérialisation partenaire. Again, a very strange way to call it, which are equivalent to access points in the Peppol network that are able to communicate with one another and that can also report to the centralized system of France. France is, for the moment, a very bad Peppol student, or their interoperability is very bad, but this is being addressed by Open Peppol and France to increase this interoperability. The discussions that are happening between Open Peppol and France, and because France delayed now for 2, maybe 3 years the adoption of this and the setting up of this, means that we will have a lot more time to have something that will be interoperable with France and that will not require so much work by everyone, all the softwares. So my bet is on support Peppol, support UBL, and with this you'll be fine. Because France will need to do something to be interoperable with the rest of Europe, at least with VIDA, and this will come through through Peppol and UBL.
Okay, thanks. And I have just another quick question about the future of automatic tax collection for the state. Let's say, for an example, for now, I send an invoice to a customer, and they view some mistake I made, and they say, "Oh, you forgot something, or there is an error." I update the invoice and I resend it the same invoice. In the future, it will not be possible, I guess, because if the tax is already declared, the credit will be mandatory every time there is a change.
Yeah. So first, you're not supposed to do this already today. That's the first part. But in practice, in practice, we know that this happens. In the future, indeed, it will be completely impossible to do that because, as you said, yes, the first invoice is already known by the tax. It's final. You cannot change this. You can make a credit note and create a new invoice if you want, but it will be mandatory. Otherwise, your whole accounting will be wrong, and the taxes that you'll need to pay will also be wrong. So yes, this way to proceed will not work in the future.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's indeed a very big, another change that is probably not so much considered by the authorities because it's already not supposed to happen. But as we said, in practice it does. So yep. Another question? Yeah,
I have one. Yes, thanks. You said a bit earlier that there is a contract between the sender of the invoice data in this case and the receiver, and that there is no contract between the middle pillar, saying Peppol, so that there is no cost to deliver invoice data to Peppol. You can wonder what the business model of Peppol is then.
There is none. It's a non-profit, so there is no business model there.
Okay, so but it's imposed by European governments, so that's the good thing. But in fact, you are only transferring data between senders and receivers and vice versa. So isn't there a part in the regulation where a specific a physical document is needed, or does it imply that both sender and receiver should be able to transfer the data into a physical document?
I don't understand what you mean by physical document. You mean a paper, or you mean what's the
PDF, whatever paper document. So I understand that the network makes it possible to transfer data instead of transferring files by email or whatever. So you imply that if it will be enlarged or enrolled for B2C invoicing also, you imply that every receiver is able to be connected to the platform.
Yes, indeed, but not directly. That's what. So the first thing is that with electronic invoicing, the master data for the invoice, the one that is really important, is in the UBL. So if you put a PDF inside the UBL, this is just for the shows, to have something that will be human readable by the recipient, but it has no legal value. It's not considered as the master data for this invoice. So the master data is in the structured UBL. You can choose not to send any PDF with it if you want. On the other side, the one that will receive the document will not receive the XML. I mean, you and me were not ready to receive an XML and just know what to do with it. So it will be received by the access point that will transfer it to the recipient software, and the recipient software will make sense of this document to present it as the recipient wants it. Mm-hmm. The very big difference is that today, you know it very well, there is a big fragmentation of ways of channels to send and receive those documents, leading to the customer having to look at plenty of different places to find all his invoices. He has them in his mail, he has them in his mailbox, physical mailbox, he has them in